All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast, episode 11. This is actually the second time they're recording this because we had the wrong setting on our microphone and I sounded extremely echoey and we were like, what is happening?
You sounded like so quiet. I was
know.
like, can I just not hear anymore?
Usually my voice is so like crisp and it was not that.
All right,
Good thing,
a crisp voice.
hey. Good thing we stopped it just to listen real quick because if not, that would have been a little awkward.
Yeah, the audio was looking very tiny.
Yeah, because it was loud. Like, it spiked a lot whenever you were talking, and then I started talking, and it was like, me. And that was not normal. Anyways, aside from that, welcome.
We actually have a few stories. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, so I don't know if we're going to get into this, like, automatically, but we actually have a story about our name. So our name is livewithjm, but we were thinking of changing it.
Yeah.
And, like, last night, we were trying to change it from recording this video.
Oh, yeah.
And that did not end up well. Julian started getting stressed, and if you know him, he doesn't get stressed that fast. So he was stressing out, and I knew we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it was there was a lot more to it than we thought. We did end up changing one thing, and we'll explain that. You might have noticed that our tag on our social media is different, and we'll explain exactly what that is later on in the episode. But besides that, the main topic of today's episode is going to be some conspiracy theories and documentary talk, because we have recently been watching some documentaries and it's really got our minds going. I think it's just something interesting that we want to share with y'all, and we hope that you find enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, honestly, they're pretty crazy. We watched one about aliens, and then we watched one about the first Latina woman to be sentenced to death row in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And then Julian actually watched one on his own.
Yeah,
I can't remember
it
what
was
it's about.
a very popular Netflix documentary called Seaspiracy. My friend Jonathan and Dre actually introduced me to it one night when we got back from our friend's house. And we fell asleep, so I didn't get to finish it, but I finished it on my own time. And it's super interesting. Can't wait to share my thoughts on it with y'all.
Yeah, there's actually another documentary that I watched on my own, actually yesterday, because Julian I think he was taking a nap before we hung out. And so I was just like, oh, it's only an hour and 30 minutes. I think by the time he showers and stuff, like, I'll be able to finish it. And I did finish it. I can't remember the name of it right now, though, so I have to look that up. But it was about, like, these little boys, and I think even girls, but they were mainly focused on the boys of this documentary. And they were being kidnapped, like, in the wildlife, what are they called? Like, not like wildlife centers.
The natural parks? Or
yeah, natural parks.
Is that what they are?
I think so.
Natural parks. I feel like it has natural in it and park. National park. It's a national park.
Okay, so it's a national park. Basically, that's
National State Park.
That's where these kids were getting abducted.
That's crazy.
And
that's scary.
It is scary. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I never even thought about that. Like, these little kids can just, like, vanish because the parks are massive.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a lot to unravel. And at the end of the episode, we also have some announcements, but we'll get to that at the end. Story of last night. What was going on with our name change? Do you want to kind of elaborate on what was happening? What kind of started us off in that direction? What was happening that led us to do that, or to decide to want to attempt to do it?
All right, so we were actually thinking of changing our name, like, in the 9th episode. We weren't thinking of changing it then, but it had become a thought at that point where we were like, oh, well, we never really go live, and our name is Live with J&M, so we can just change it. You know, it shouldn't be that hard.
Oh, yeah.
And so last night, out of a whim, Julian and I got coffee, and we actually wanted to change our intro music.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, let's do that, because we were watching a documentary and stuff like that, and we had gotten coffee, so we had finished and everything. And so we went back to my house, and we decided to just change the music. And then one thing led to another, and we actually ended up, well, how about we just change our name?
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, we're already here. We already have our computers. We can just go ahead, change a different logo. And so we did. we changed the logo. We were there for like an hour.
Bananas,
because
honestly.
that thing takes us forever to like agree on.
Yeah.
And then the name, it honestly didn't take us that long to change the name.
It didn't. So this is our name originally was gonna what was it gonna be again?
It was gonna be Life Isn't Perfect, but we are, as like a joke.
Yeah, cause and that was gonna be like a play on our relationship because
we're a relationship, like mostly podcast.
What was that?
Like,
wait, hold on.
That
what?
Didn't even make sense.
That made absolutely no. Like, we're a relationship podcast. What? Oh wait, no. Well, that did make sense.
No, the way I put it, I said
okay.
Like,
yeah, there was a comma in there, and
yeah,
I got confused. Yes, we are a relationship-centric podcast. I would say, it's
our main focus is based off of our relationship.
Yes, I would agree with that. And our thinking was that saying that life isn't perfect, but we are, was just us saying that in our eyes we are perfect, but in reality no relationship is perfect and we aren't perfect.
Well, I don't know, I was thinking of it as a lot of people are like, wow, you have such an amazing relationship, like I never see y'all fight or anything like that, and it kind of perceives us to be like having a perfect relationship, which is like not the case at all. We just get into like little petty arguments.
Yeah, it's small
it's not even
stuff.
Really arguments. It's kind of just like
it's disagreements. It's small disagreements that make us pouty. And I know there's worse things that have happened in other couples' relationships.
Even in ours, we just don't we haven't really elaborated on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Like people will say that to us, and we don't look at it like that. So it's kind of like a joke.
Yeah.
Like, we're not perfect at all. So that's all I was thinking about.
Yeah, anyways, so we thought it was a pretty funny title because we were looking at other podcasts. So there's a podcast that I actually listened to from a comedian called Tom. His name is Tom Segura, and he has a podcast with his wife called Your Mom's House. And I never understood exactly why they named it that. I think there's probably a reasoning. They might have explained it in the first episode, but I didn't start listening to his podcast till like episode 230. And so I was thinking we should have a funny name for our title, and then we were trying to think of, or Marisabel was looking up funny one-liners or like quips having to deal with relationships, and she ended up finding something. I think it was similar to that, or if it was that.
No, I think it was that. We found like 2.
Okay. And then I
forgot what the first one was though.
Yeah. Anyways, we ended up going with the title that Marisabel had said, Life Isn't Perfect, But We Are. And we had gone through changing everything. We made it an entirely new logo, and everything was all set up. We started changing stuff. We changed our Instagram name and our Twitter name.
And we ended up almost changing, I think, our Gmail. Or did you change that?
No, I was trying to change the Gmail, and that's where I started to get stressed out, because you're not able to change your Gmail handle. So you're able to change your name, but you're not able to change your handle. So it would have still been at livewithjm or livewithjm@gmail.com. And I was starting to get stressed out because I was like, if we want this to be our name, I want everything to be with that name. And so then I was trying to go through our hosting site and all the other things that we have linked up via our email, our podcast email. And there was so much that I never really even thought about, because we just, started signing up for things and linking things to this email and to our hosting site that was also linked with this current email that we had. And it was going to be too much of a hassle to completely switch over, to the point that I just started to get really stressed. And then we just decided, you know what, let's not change the name. Let's just change the formula. So, in other words, like at the beginning of this episode, the intro music is different. And y'all will have heard that. We hope you like it. We think it's cool.
Yeah, we thought Julian was jamming out.
Oh, yeah, I was jamming out hard. Like, right before we started recording this episode, I was like, oh, they're going to like this. And I was like, ooh, yeah, like dancing.
The ugliest dance moves.
Hey, I thought they're pretty fire for, like, sitting in place dances. But, yeah, and then at the end of the episode, we'll have some different things going on there. And then as well at the end of the episode, we are going to announce something that we're going to be doing that's going to be a little bit different, that I think makes sense for us. I think it makes sense for the direction in which will help us grow more. So yeah, we'll get into that later. But anyways,
get into it later. We just like got into it.
Oh, I mean, we're gonna get into the details of it. I mentioned it now, but building up anticipation so that people stay until the end of the episode. Anyways, so we're still live with J&M, and I love it. It rolls off the tongue. It's catchy. A lot of people know it now, so I feel like changing the name.
Yeah, we have like 52 followers on Instagram.
Oh yeah,
Shout out to y'all.
Yes, thank you. Spread the word. If you think that somebody would like the podcast, or if you have any suggestions on how to change it, or maybe to make it better, if there's something you want to listen to, please let us know. We want y'all's input. We will make an episode centered around any comment that y'all have. Okay, I don't know about any comment, but
most comments.
Will. If you got a question, or if you're curious about something, or you suggest something for us to watch and then we comment on it, I mean, that would be fun. Just something to give us something to talk about. That's all this is. Just us talking, just having a good time. And I enjoy it.
It really is. It's just something for us to do.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's the story with that. Was there anything else with that story? I mean, that was pretty much it.
Do you want to talk about our Instagram, @ now?
Oh, yeah. So our Instagram @ is, what is it? Lipwab? Or
it's like lip_BWA, so bois.
Yeah, Lipbois. I just unplugged my phone.
I don't know if they could hear that.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a little ring that happened when I unplugged my phone. But anyways, so
that is now our Instagram and Twitter, I think
Yeah, our handle. So our name is still going to be Live with J&M Podcast, but our handle is going to be Lipbois, which is the title that we were going to change it to. Life isn't perfect, but we are. It's because we think it's funny. We want to stick with it. Maybe we'll change it back. Who really knows? Anyways, that's going to be our handle for whoever knows how long.
Until we decide to change it again.
Until we decide to change it again. But I think it's pretty funny. It's intriguing. People are going to be like, what the hell does Lipbois mean? And then if you listen to the episode or any future episodes, you'll understand exactly what it means. And I think it could be cool. Like some inside thing, like, oh, only real Live with J&Mers know.
Oh, yeah, when we get like hundreds of followers.
That's the goal. That
is the goal.
That's the goal for this summer. We want to get to 100 consecutive listeners on all of our episodes. And so I think right now our highest listened to episode is like 52. I think it's the first episode.
Which is pretty good because we have 52 followers on Instagram.
Not bad. Not bad. Yeah. And then I think after that it's the previous episode with our friends, and then the one with my brother.
Yeah.
And yeah, so pretty cool. Oh, another cool thing. We actually got to 200 downloads recently.
Let's go.
So that's exciting. Great stuff. Thank you guys for supporting. We really appreciate that. But other than that, I mean, what else was going on with that? I think that was it, right?
I think that was pretty much it. Like snippets, I guess.
That's pretty much it for that part of the episode.
All right, we're done. I'm just kidding.
Now let's get into the meat of potatoes.
The meat and potatoes.
The correct.
We just had meat and potatoes.
We did. Oh
Shout
my gosh,
out to
we
Julian's
did.
Mom.
I know. She man, I forgot what the name of it was, but yeah, it's fideo, it's ground beef, potatoes,
and corn.
And oh, it's so good. I ate 2 massive platefuls of it, and quesadillas, because she made quesadillas, cheese quesadillas, and then she made corn tortilla quesadillas for Marisol, because she's a little gluten sensitive, as y'all learned in the last episode. And so yeah, anyways, either are good. I munched on everything.
They were really good.
It was delicious. Man, I'm getting hungry again just thinking about it.
All right, but on to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, on to the actual meat and potatoes of this episode. The documentaries that we've been watching. Which one do you want to start off talking about? Because they're all so interesting, honestly.
Okay, so start off maybe with the alien one, because I'm going to look up the one that I saw yesterday on my own, because I forgot the name real quick.
Okay, so this alien podcast that we were watching, it's on Hulu, by the way. So most of these podcasts, except for the Seaspiracy one, I think are on Hulu. Or what? Do you know what streaming app you watched yours on?
I watched it on Hulu too.
Okay, so all of these except Seaspiracy are going to be on Hulu. I assume maybe some of them on Amazon. I don't know. But so this one was called Unacknowledged, and it's on Hulu, and it's about how the government knows that aliens are real. They've had tons of evidence to support that aliens are real, but the government doesn't want to acknowledge them for various reasons. One reason could be that one reason that they mentioned in the documentary was that they didn't want mass public I don't know, freak out. Like, they didn't want people to go crazy over the idea of like, holy crap, there's aliens in space. They're real. They visited us. The government knows. They haven't told us. They didn't want people to freak out and have this mass hysteria about the idea that the government is more corrupt than people already think it is.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. I feel like it was so far-fetched that I almost didn't believe a lot of the stuff that was happening during it, but
yeah,
some points were believable enough that I was kind of like, damn, what
I
if
feel
that
like
is actually the case? That shit is crazy to think about.
it
It's
is crazy to
mind-boggling.
think about. But I feel like the reason I was doubtful was because a lot of the time, the main guy, he was like, oh, well, okay, so the main thing that freaked me out
Yeah.
was the main guy. He always kept saying, oh, well, the government doesn't want you to know. But it's like, how was this so, like, well put together that the government, like, quote unquote, like, maybe didn't know about it?
Yeah.
And then, like, let it just come out. But that also, he also talked about that kind of, where it was like, the government just plays kind of hoax of like aliens, like they make it seem kind of like, oh, funny, like ha ha ha, you believe in aliens,
Yeah.
and things like that. And the people who do like come out and say that, they make them seem crazy.
Yeah.
And so I felt like, I don't know, I was half and half on believing everything the guy was telling me,
Okay.
but I also have always believed in like aliens.
Okay.
That mainly because we're in such a big, like, we're really tiny compared to like the entire like universe and galaxy, even just our galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, we can't be the only planet. Like, come on now, like out of all that space out there.
I think it is pretty crazy. Thinking about it, we are such a small speck of dust compared to the vastness of the universe, even to the vastness of our own solar system. I mean, we have planets multiple hundreds of times bigger than the planet that we live on. You know, Jupiter and Saturn are I mispronounced that a little bit. Jupiter and Saturn are huge compared to the Earth. And thinking about that in terms of our size compared to those things, I mean, we are tiny. There's no way that there's not life out there. Am I still skeptical of it? Yes, but I'm not going to be surprised if there is extraterrestrial life. And if the government's been hiding that, or if they, if they know about it, but they just don't want to acknowledge it because of the reasons that they've stated, like in this documentary of how they don't want to cause mass hysteria and public panic, that kind of makes sense. But I feel like if you ease into it, I don't think people would get as freaked out. I don't know. Honestly, because of the pandemic and how people freaked out with getting toilet paper and shit, I don't know how the public's going to react.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they came up with that, kind of excuse about it. But it's like, you came out with the pandemic and other things in, like, I don't know, kind of worse ways. Or...
Oh, like revealing what it was?
Yeah, like revealing it in a way that wasn't even... I don't know. It wasn't really good, the way that it was brought about on the media and stuff. So I feel like with anything, you have to be delicate with it, because everybody has, like, they'll come out thinking about it a different way, or they'll react to it to a different way. Mm-hmm. And that's just with anything. Like, you can't hide things forever, because it's like once that does come, like, to light, it just makes it worse. Because it's like, in this, let's say everybody watched it, right? Everybody was like, oh my gosh, like, I believe that, right? Well, now you have all these people not believing in the government. Yeah. And there's already a bunch of people that don't believe in the government. So it's like, how are you going to control that?
Yeah, you got to think about the psychology of it all. How people are going to react. How people typically react to very high stressors or sudden changes in things that were so grounded. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's something that's just hard to calculate on such a mass scale, because it would be different if you're just revealing like the existence of aliens to a group of 10 people. It's so easy to calm that down, or it's so easy to introduce that in a calm manner. But introducing it to the world, not even just America, but literally to the world, is something that you just can't account for every person.
And I think that's true. But I feel like if they were to come out with it maybe not right now because we're in the midst of a pandemic and everybody's already going through that stressor.
I mean, there was that thing. Remember? I think my mom mentioned it, and then I think I saw it on Twitter too.
Oh
Like
yeah, they
they
already said it, but they said it in the pandemic, so we
yeah,
wouldn't be focused on
they
it.
deadass just revealed images from a U.S. or it was a video, right, or something like that of a U.S. Air Force.
Honestly, I don't remember because I saw it and I was like, I already thought that,
I
and then
think
like that was it.
I think it was a U.S. Air Force jet, and there was this unidentified flying object. Now UFO stands for unidentified flying object. That's not necessarily aliens, but it is associated with extraterrestrial life. Even extraterrestrial life, that's not necessarily aliens. I forgot what it was.
No, aliens is, it's kind of like some people call Canadians to America, like when they come into America, aliens, because they're not from America.
Yeah, it's just someone not from this Earth land. I don't know. There's a specific definition
from that
for
area.
It. Anyways, extraterrestrial UFOs, all correlated, aliens, it's a thing. And I mean, there was actual video of it, and I was like, damn, that looks like one of those typical videos of a UFO that you would see online. So that's crazy, honestly. It was so brushed over. I forgot about it until my mom mentioned it the other day.
Me too, and I feel like that was the point.
You think so? You think that's what it is?
They were kind of like, well, let's see. And not a lot of people notice. But
That's
it's
crazy.
because we're focused on what's happening like right now.
Yeah, that's kind of like the idea of the whole hiding in plain sight. And they had mentioned that in the documentary too, about hiding evidence in plain sight. It's just so blatantly in front of you that you wouldn't think to look at it and really think about it.
Because it is like, it's shown as like in a joking matter. So it's like in one of the interviews that some high executive of the White House, I think, was like giving an interview, or, you know, he was being asked questions.
Yeah.
And they brought in some costume of an alien and they were like laughing at it or whatever. Like they made a big joke out of it whenever a lot of people at the time were seeing, you know, UFOs and they couldn't make out like what it was.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like back to that thing, well, you know, the only people that are going to see them are the crazy people. And I think that's basically what has been happening. You know, It's kind of like a psychological thing, or like to us, like if you haven't seen it, and a bunch of people, you know, that live in the country, you know what they say like about country people, like they're crazy. Like some people are just crazy out there. That's why they live alone, and you can't hold them as a witness or like a true witness.
Yeah.
So they already gave them that stereotype. So we're even like, oh well, how do you know that's what they even saw? Like, were you drunk? Were you high? Like, there are all these factors where it's like even us, like when someone comes out and says something like that, I'm like, well, like, how are you psychologically? But it's because we're trained already to think like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's a crazy thing. I still don't know. There's a whole bunch of things. There's another documentary series on Hulu also about like Bigfoot and murders. I think it's like about murders, but they blamed it on Bigfoot, and so we're gonna watch that.
Yeah, and that's another thing that this documentary was talking about. I forgot what it was called, but it's a military tactic where basically you make it seem like the enemy caused harm to you or whatever, and so then your military and then like brings the community, or like let's say America, together. Yeah. And then y'all are all against this one group.
It's basically developing, it's artificially developing an incentive to go to war with some foreign nation, or, you know, quote unquote the enemy, just because you want to exploit their resources or take over that land, but there really is no good reason to do so. So you artificially create one. And
it's kind of like
how you rally everybody together.
Yeah, you bring the community together. And that was something that they were actually saying. They were talking about 9/11. They were talking about, what is his name? Kim Jong-un. Yeah. They're talking about, like, all these people that we view as kind of, like, bad, I guess. Like, some way or another, the government kind of knew about it, or they kind of pushed it to that point, or they were even the ones to inflict it, but made it seem like it was the other people that did it. So in all, we were focused on that and not really focused on what they were really trying to do.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I'm not saying I'd buy into all of this, but
I feel like it's not for everything because there is war.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. I don't think it's bad to think about conspiracy theories or think about what if what we're told isn't true. I think that's totally plausible.
Yeah, well, we can just kind of see it in our history. Like we were just talking about it, where I think slavery was worse than what we have been shown in school.
Oh yeah, they definitely censored it. There's no way that what we were shown, or even about discrimination and the whole civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr. Obviously, we were in middle school and high school when we learned about this, so I think they had to censor it to an extent, but they weren't.
It's been really watered down for
It
us.
has been. They weren't showing everything. I mean, for the longest time, I thought the Civil Rights Act and all of those things, I thought slaves were just black people, and then they had Asian people working on railroads on the California coast.
But that's crazy because I didn't even know Asians worked on the railroads.
See, that is bananas. Like
I didn't learn about that.
Everybody was slaves. I mean, Mexicans were slaves. Poor white people were slaves. Lots of people were slaves. Those who were in power or who were deemed to be better than others were the ones that had slaves. And I had no idea about that till maybe, I don't even know when I learned about that, but it definitely wasn't early in my life. It was more recent than later.
Yeah, I've mainly learned all these new things because now, well, we're in college, so it's kind of like they don't really have to censor us.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about slavery or those type of movements in my English class or in my literature class because we were learning about different ethnicities and cultures by reading these books, right? And so my professor would talk about them and be like, oh, well, how did you feel about this and this? And we would explain, and he'd be like, oh, well, that's not all that happened. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean that's not all that happened? Like, that's all I was taught.
Yeah.
So that's just something that's why I think it's possible for the government to know about these things, or even censor us, yeah. But mainly because my dad told me something. It's kind of like, I don't know how, I think it's true. Because they said he saw it on the news, but then it's like he saw it or heard it on the news. But it was kind of like the government knew that 9/11 was going to happen. And I think I talked about this before. But they knew, and the people were actually training the ones who, like, crashed the planes or took over the planes in Florida. So they knew these people were going to do that. But they didn't stop it. And I feel like it's because it kind of, like you said, gave them an incentive to do something else. To bring the country together.
I mean, that was the whole reason that we ended up going to like Afghanistan and Iraq and all that shit.
Exactly.
Because they placed the blame on the Arab culture and all the people associated with that, and it became this big thing. And now apparently Biden's going to be pulling out all the troops from Iraq and stuff and Afghanistan, and I don't know how true that is, if he's going to pull these soldiers out and then just dump new ones in, or if we're permanently pulling out from that place.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about because it's like we really didn't have a point of fighting in certain like wars.
Yeah.
Until it was kind of like we were given an incentive. So it's not hard to think like, oh, well, we just wanted an incentive to get in. Yeah,
it's some crazy shit. Moving on to another point though, some other crazy stuff that's happening with government and the free market economy and all that stuff. So this other documentary that I watched on Netflix called Seaspiracy, I'm sure many of you listening have either heard of it, seen it on Netflix, or have watched it. And it's basically just about how a lot of the Earth's pollution, mainly the ocean's pollution, is caused by the fishing companies, those mass fisheries, the ones that catch fish in huge amounts, where they put those giant 100-foot nets or whatever, however big they are, into the ocean and catch these big lumps of tuna, but then inside of them you have sharks and sea turtles and other walks of fish life that aren't supposed to get caught. And it was this whole thing talking about bycatch, which is what I just explained, where they catch things that they weren't intending to, about how the type of fishing that they're doing is destroying reef ecosystems, and that causes more like carbon damage to the earth than 100 vehicles releasing their gas exhaust would. And it's crazy to think about that all of this, and it's not even just fishing too, but mass what do you call it, mass food processing plants, ones where they bring in the dead pigs, the dead cows, all that stuff, and they make all the meat and shit that you see in HEB. The process to get to that point is disgusting, honestly. I mean, we watched another podcast on Hulu, wasn't it? It was called Food Incorporated.
Oh yeah, I think that was on Netflix.
Was it on Netflix?
I think it was.
No, it was on Hulu.
It was on Hulu?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was on Hulu. Yeah, because then we watched that Columbine one, remember?
Oh yeah, that was on Hulu.
Yeah. Anyway, so this Food Incorporated one talking about the process of, you know, killing these chickens and these pigs and how it's so unsanitary and it's disgusting. That was another one that we had watched in school too, our junior year, that was related to that. And it was really gross, honestly. And just to think about that, same thing with the Seaspiracy documentary. They were talking about how plastic isn't the number one pollutant. It's actually all these fishery waste and the nets and all that stuff. That's killing more animals than the plastic soda can holders that you see in the ocean. That's like the poster thing, you know.
Yeah.
Straws and then those plastic rings that hold all the soda cans. They say that's the thing that you see on posters. It's the thing that you saw in Finding Nemo that was holding the fish, you know. I mean, that's what's been brought up to be the main cause of Earth's ocean pollution, when according to this documentary, it's actually all these fishing companies, all the nets, all the bycatch. You know, you catch these, the bycatch caused by these. So when they catch like a dolphin or when they catch like a sea turtle or other sharks, fish that they're not intending to catch, and they just throw them back into the ocean, it's not like they just swim away. They just die. I mean, sometimes they're so high up or the velocity is going so fast that they die on impact in the water. And then you just got all this dead animal waste in the water, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it really makes sense though, because it's like how many boats, like these big boats, not these little ones,
yeah,
that
these
go
are massive
out.
boats.
And it's honestly, it's crazy to think about. I haven't watched it yet, but it seems really interesting. Kind of seems gruesome. I don't know.
Yeah, there's this a little warning. If you haven't watched it yet, there's a part at the end. I mean, it's a documentary. I don't know if I should be like spoiler free or whatever, but at the end he ends up going to I think it's Greenland or Iceland. One of those two. I always get them mixed up.
I think it's Iceland.
I think he goes to Iceland, and then they have this thing that happens where they round up these whales. I think they're like beluga whales or something like that. The smaller species of whales. They round them up, then they beach them, and then they just slit all their necks, and they showed all of that. There was so much blood in the water. I mean, it was bright red. This water was crazy. Like, this is ocean water, and it was bright red.
Yeah.
And just seeing all those dead whales, I mean, I didn't get sad, but I was like, shit. Like, that.
Kind of like in shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But then this fisherman brought up a point, but then my dad also brought up another point, which I'll get into that in a second. So the guy in the Seaspiracy documentary was interviewing this dude, and he was asking him, you know, one of these whales that we kill will feed us for 2 months. How many chickens do you have to kill to feed a family for 2 months?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, that actually makes a lot of sense. But then my dad, the logical thinker he was like, well, I mean, how easy is it for these whales to reproduce? I mean, you look at chickens and they reproduce by the thousands with how much they have, by the millions with how much they have. And, you know, thinking about it, I think either way, the way that you get your meat on your table is unethical. At the end of the day, we're slaughtering these animals. And, I mean, I'm not like this whole advocate for animals or anything like that, like PETA and all that shit, but I understand that it is gruesome. And
yeah, it is something to think about.
If we want the chicken, if we want the burgers, if we want the bacon, all that stuff, you got to understand that shit like this happens to get that. But it is crazy to think about the potential waste that's caused by it and the way in which we go about it. Like, I'm sure, I mean, there's no nice way to put it. You know, we slaughter the animals, but there must be a more efficient and clean process to do so, because we're not just killing these animals. I mean, we're literally killing the planet we live on the way that we're doing it. And just thinking about that, I mean, it's fucked, you know. I'm going to take a drink of water. I've been talking a lot.
But yeah, so besides that documentary, because I think we're giving a little bit about each, kind of, yeah?
Yeah, moving on.
All right, so the documentary that I watched was Missing 411. It was also on Hulu. Basically what happened in this documentary is that these families, and it was a bunch of different families, different parts of the United States, I think. Or no, it was Canada. Different parts of the United States and Canada. And they were in different decades too. It was crazy to think about, but these kids would basically get away from their family for maybe like a minute or two, maybe 10 minutes I think was like the max or something, and then they would just go missing. Like this one guy was actually running after his kid because his kid, I think he had autism or something, and he took him out and it was just him, and his kid just decided to start running. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, come back here, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so he was running after him, and he was like, stop, or whatever. And his kid just kept running. And then he kept chasing him, and then at one moment, he was just gone. Like, he has no idea where he went, and he was literally looking at his kid.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And so for some of these kids, they never found the body. But it was like, for the bodies that they did find for these kids, their clothes were turned inside out. Or it was like, their shoes and their jackets and all this stuff were kind of fairly clean considering how long they were missing.
Yeah.
Like one kid specifically, I think he was missing for 3 years, and they found him they found his like skull and like a tooth and his clothes in a spot that they had checked dozens of times, maybe even hundreds of times, right?
Oh my gosh.
And the clothes were kind of fine. Like the jacket was almost like you couldn't even tell it was out there. The shoes, the same thing. The only thing that was kind of like torn apart because the what is it, like the insects? They were kind of getting onto it, but the pants were turned inside out. And so these people that actually went out and searched, and the ones that live there, and they're giving these explanations, they're like, oh well, the most logical thing is that what are they called, mountain lions? Like they got the kid and they just swept him up, or some animal did, right? But then these other group of people were like, yes, but mountain lions don't take off the clothes of the things that they're eating.
Yeah.
Or attacking.
Yeah, that's weird.
And so it's like...
That's not a mountain lion.
That's not a mountain lion, right? And so this happened to like... They showed 4 families, and for 2 of them, that's kind of the similar situation that happened. Like, the kid wasn't there when they looked. And they looked throughout the entire 3 years. It wasn't like they just stopped after a month or 2. And then one day they just showed up.
Damn.
And so, these people that are doing the documentary, they have no idea what happened. Because they got almost all these people in that community to go out. Like, I think one of them, it was like in a small town. So literally everyone in that small town went to go look out.
Damn.
Like for a year, I think. And then some parents, they're still going out and looking for their kid, and it's been like 10 years. Jeez. Right? And so what is it? What was I getting to? Oh, yeah. So the people that were actually doing this documentary and putting it together, they were talking about, or they interviewed this one sheriff, and he was talking about how the wildlife or the national parks, they don't have a list of anyone that goes missing in their park. So you know how the police department, they have like a list of people that have gone missing in the past year, 10 years, all that stuff. Yeah. They have the information, the clothes they're wearing, whatever information was given to them. Well, the wildlife parks, they have nothing. They have no, like, I don't know, they just don't have any paperwork on it. Jeez. Like, the only people that really know about it are mainly the families. And it's like, if you didn't work there at the time, you don't really know. And so it got me thinking, because these like national parks, those wildlife parks, they don't have any information on it. They said they weren't going to do any information on it. And when someone asked, well, do you have any, like, anything about these missing children or missing people, it was like, oh, well, it's going to cost like $1.4 million or $1 billion to even get that. Oh my gosh. So we're not going to do that. What? And it's like, they were so neglectful to have these things. It kind of got me thinking, like, what if they know? Like, in a way. Yeah. Like, maybe they don't know exactly who did it. Or maybe they do. Maybe they're a part of it. Because sex trafficking is a thing. all this stuff is possible now. Like, you really can't trust anybody. So it's like they didn't even want to get the outside police department involved, like the national parks. They're like, no, we'll have our people come and look. And it's like when there's a missing kid or like anybody missing, you want to have as many people looking for them as you can. All these different resources. And they didn't want to. They didn't want anyone outside of their area. And it wasn't for just one specific park. It was like 4 or 5, maybe, I think it's all the parks. Because I think one guy, he was like the executive of like looking over these parks. Yeah. And he was like, you would think as the executive, I would at least have some paperwork on all the people that are missing or that have gone missing. Damn. And he doesn't. Like, he's the top guy and he has nothing about it. So it's like, why are they not wanting to do that? Like, they have to know something. These kids just don't go missing and one day end up in your park again like nothing happened.
That shit is, that's scary, honestly, thinking about that. That's like, that shit got me thinking about alien abduction, or potential sex trafficking, or I don't think an animal could have done that.
That's what it got me thinking about, because I watched this the day after we watched the alien one. And in the alien one, the guy said, well, the government now has all the technology to kind of replicate an alien abduction or an alien sighting. Damn. So it's like, what if they're doing this to pin it on aliens?
Damn, bro, it's all connected.
Because at the end of the alien documentary, he was like, what is the biggest thing that could bring the entire world together? And it's like all of us being attacked by extraterrestrial. Oh, yeah. Because we're all in the same planet. We're all against this one enemy. Damn. But what if they're not even the ones that are going to be attacking us? Like the other thing where they kind of pin it on someone else. Yeah. Like they're pinning it on the aliens, but it's really just them.
We're just attacking our own selves in an effort to unite everybody. That shit would be great. That's a movie. I'm pretty sure that's probably a movie plot. I swear I've heard that or recognized that from somewhere. That's crazy. Man, I can't imagine that. Imagine like you lose somebody close to you, all of a sudden they reappear and then everybody acts like nothing happened.
But that's another thing. So they found one of the kids. Yeah. Like, I think after 24 hours of him missing. Yeah. But this kid was 2 years old, right? Uh-huh. They're in like a wildlife park or area. Like that's where the family lived because that's where they were. Yeah. And they were visiting, I think, the grandparents. And they found the kid's footprints from like, I was going to show you, but then I know they can't see. But anyways, they found him, or the footprints, kind of like on the other side of the house, right? Yeah. And the kid somehow, from that point, got all the way, I think, so far where the guy said it takes 2 or 3 days for a normal person to be able to get to that other side, like from where he was. Yeah. This is a 2-year-old. Like, you gotta be thinking about it. They have, like, no knowledge on what to do, how to get over a rock safely, how to do all these things. How did he end up so far where a specialist or someone who does this for a living is like, it takes me 2 or 3 days to get over here? Damn. And that's not accounting for sleep. Yeah. So how did this little baby get over there?
Yeah, that is some conspiracy shit right there. Like, there's no way that it was an animal. It had to... Because if it was, what could have swiped a kid like that so fast in front of a parent that they didn't even they didn't even realize till after the kid was gone that it was gone. Yeah. Imagine that. That's, damn. That's got goosebumps on me, man. I know. Thinking about that, that's crazy. But, fuck. Crazy. All these documentaries are crazy. Got me thinking about so many things. The possibility of what if. The question of what if is crazy. That's all these documentaries do. They make you question, what if? What if this is real? What if that happened? You know?
And it's like, all these things are possible. Exactly. That's the crazy part.
I think mostly anything is possible. And it's just up to whether or not somebody makes it happen, or if it naturally happens, that we will ever know the answer to that question of, is it possible?
And it's kind of like also if you're in that situation.
Yeah. Damn, crazy stuff.
I don't want to be in any of those situations.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'll look at it from the outside, but do not want to be the subject of test.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was just crazy because I watched that documentary and I kind of just clicked on it.
Yeah.
I didn't really like look at the description, but it was crazy to me because I was like, oh, well, when we finally have a family, I want to go hiking and I want to go to these national parks and I want to take our kids. And now I'm like, no, I don't. I do not want to take.
My gosh.
I'm not taking my kid. They can go when they're like a teenager.
What? Nah, we'll go.
No, one of the kids was 8 and he was just swiped up and he was never found again.
I will be chill.
I'm not taking my kid until
we're gonna go. Whoa, what's this? My kid talk. Our
children are not going.
Damn. Okay, me, myself, and I over here.
I'm so sorry. Look, no, our children.
We're gonna be good. Honestly, as long as we go during the daylight, you got yourself a previous Boy Scout here.
Were in the daylight. They were not in the dark.
We're chilling, babe. We're chilling. These conspiracy theories.
I'm scared of getting picked up.
They got you bugging out, honey.
So
they got
little.
you bugging out. All right, let's get off of that. Let's close out the episode here. We have been talking about this for almost 46 minutes now. I feel like we could talk about these things for hours on end. There's so many more. What?
Is this video actually going to be able to go up, or they're going to be like restricted? You can't talk about it.
What?
Because they can restrict you from talking about certain things.
Babe, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be up. I've listened to so many Joe Rogan Experience episodes.
I'm just saying.
They've talked about crazier shit on there.
Y'all text me. Let me know if y'all can hear this.
I think we're gonna be straight. Anyways, yeah, we are at that 46-minute mark. We could probably talk about this shit for hours. We might talk about other documentaries that we watched, about the Bigfoot one that I mentioned earlier. But we do want to keep these episodes, again, to about 45 minutes.
So tough.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. We'll continue this conversation at a later date, and we will definitely share with y'all. But before we close the episode out, part of the changes that we were explaining was that we were going to do a proper outro, not just simply us closing it and saying bye at the end. Don't get me wrong, that was cute, but we want to make it a little more official, a little more professional, if you will. And some announcements before we close the episode. I actually recently got a new desk setup, and it is very nice. I'm using an IKEA Alex drawer with the IKEA desk legs. I have 3 in the back, 1 in the front, and then the Alex drawer on the left hand, holding up a IKEA countertop with, I would say like an oak finish. Looks very nice.
Yeah, and he actually made it.
Yeah, it was all like parts that weren't really supposed to go together, but I put them together.
But it's a countertop.
It wasn't my idea. This was, plenty of people have done this desk design, but I decided to do it for myself, and I think it looks very nice. I very much enjoy it. There's tons of counter space, and along with this desk, we actually recently got from my grandpa some XLR microphones and some XLR cables, and we have a audio mixer and interface coming in that we're gonna start utilizing. So instead of using this USB Yeti microphone for our podcast, we're each going to have our own individual XLR microphones, which should hopefully up the quality of our future episodes. And drumroll please, live streams. Heyo. We're going to live up to our name and start doing some monthly live streams. I don't know when yet, probably June-ish.
Because we're still trying to figure it out.
We're trying to figure it all out. I think we're going to start a YouTube channel and start posting our live episodes there with video. So I need to start getting nice things to have a nice setup because I don't want it to look janky. Anyways.
Your room is literally so nice.
It looks nice, but we need chairs to sit in, not these office chairs that... We have 2 completely different office chairs that we're sitting on right now. I want to get us matching chairs, a nice little coffee table, a nice background, some good lighting. So once we figure out all of that, we'll start live streaming. But once the audio mixer comes in, which is going to be coming in next week, next episode should be recorded with our new XLR microphones. And so I'm very excited for that. And I hope you guys are too. I really hope that you appreciate and enjoy the bump in quality. I think it's going to be very beneficial for Marisol and I because our recording setup, while it's not extremely optimal, it works. I think having 2 separate microphones for each of us is going to be...
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
And we're actually going to be able to hold it if we want to.
Yes, a huge luxury. We are going to have the arms for our microphones still, but if we choose to hold it, that'll just be a bonus.
So, Julian's grandpa, if you're listening...
Shout out to you. Oh, yeah.
Another
little future announcement there. I'm going to be starting a podcast with my grandpa, and then eventually he'll start taking it over, but I'm going to be helping him with it probably for the long term at the beginning, and it's basically just gonna be him, some other old heads talking about music, Tejano, all that stuff. He's gonna have some of his old friends on, just talking about the culture, talking about music, talking about whatever's on their mind. It should be a fun listen. We're gonna figure all that out. I'm gonna start him a YouTube channel. We'll get that going, and we will update y'all on when that launches.
But also, Julian's grandpa has his own band, and they're actually on Spotify, Apple Music, I think.
Yeah.
And YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
So if y'all want to go ahead and check that out.
Yeah. If y'all want to check them out, the name is Moses Garza y los Hermanos Garza. And so go and search that up. They got some bangers. Not bad for conjunto. Personally, I like them. It's nice. Reminds me of family. But other than that, I don't think we have any more announcements. We've had quite a bit of announcements here at the end of the episode. Yeah. Is there anything else, babe, that we need to mention?
No, I think we're good. We hit all the points, and if not, we will tell you on the next episode.
Definitely. For sure, guys, follow us on our social media. Our goal for this summer is to get both of our Instagram and Twitter accounts to at least 100 followers.
So let y'all's friends know, family know, anyone that likes podcasts.
Anybody know. If you think they'll enjoy it, send it their way. If you think they won't enjoy it, send it their way and ask them to follow. We're already halfway there on our Instagram, more than halfway there actually, and on our Twitter we have like 12 followers. So definitely go follow us there. You can find all of our show links in the bio of our social media profiles. And other than that, I think that's it. Yeah?
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you in episode 12.
Bye.